So, NWA Championship Wrestling, May 10th, 1986. Pre-show video was Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA under masks, attacking Jim Cornette and threatening to put a lasso around his neck.
Spoiler!
They do spoil their own stuff sometimes. And the reaction to this after watching that 3-hour ROH show was, man, wrestling crowds were better back then.
Dude, the heat for this was crazy.
Tony Schiavone opens the show.
This was so amazing. Tony Schiavone, let me explain this to everybody. The Great American Bash Tour 1986 is coming up, where they're going to go to all these different towns and all of these big buildings. And Tony Schiavone actually says, "We told you not to make your summer plans before you heard from us. If you were planning a family vacation, you had been alerted, oh no, do not make your plans until NWA tells you where they're going for the Great American Bash, because you're not going to want to miss it." And you know what? I'll bet there were people that held off on making their summer plans back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they did not want to miss if the Great American Bash was coming to there. Can you imagine nowadays? People don't even stay home for pay-per-views. They can just watch on the network later.
Yes.
We all have DVRs.
Yes.
No one's not going to Hawaii for the summer because maybe Raw is coming to their town.
No.
Like, the whole idea of it is hilarious. But that's how it was in 1986.
He then brings out Robert Gibson for a solo promo.
Oh.
That's one of the worst ideas I've ever heard.
If Maurice Cooper, who was a jobber in the next match, had done a promo afterwards, it would have been very similar to this promo that Robert Gibson cut, because it was a total prelim guy promo.
He promised Ricky would beat Ric Flair. He said Cornette and the Midnights would get what was coming to them, and he said all this in the most boring, absent-minded, unimpressive, uninspiring manner possible. Ron Garvin versus Maurice Cooper.
A new jobber.
Quite possibly my new favorite jobber. So the more I looked at him, the better it got. Skinny, pale legs. Let's just start from the ground up. Skinny,
You
pale
start with
legs.
your description, then
Okay.
I'll give my description.
From toe to head, actually. Skinny, pale legs. Then above that, you have the back fat bulging through his singlet. Then on top of that is his flat, hairy chest, his skinny arms, his mustache, and then the long hair with the bald spot. Like, the more I looked at him, the more amazing it got.
It's like if they had filmed the movie The Wrestler and they had called you to be a jobber and you had to come up with a look. Like, you'd have done your best to do this. Like, God, I just wish that I could interview these old jobbers. Like, did you know what you were doing? Or was this just by coincidence you were the best horrible wrestler of all time?
And he was horrible.
He was tall, gangly, and horrible. Like, the very first week of wrestling school bad. He was pale. He was wearing a horribly ill-fitting singlet.
Yes.
He was bald, and he was amazing. You couldn't have made a better jobber.
Every skinny fat shop teacher you ever had in high school.
If he'd have been a little fatter around the belly, he would have been pristine.
So, in addition to being an eyesore,
Wow.
he also was a bad wrestler.
Yeah.
And he was screwing.
I mentioned that.
He was screwing stuff up left and right. And finally, Garvin grabs a face lock, and somehow they both just fall down. And Garvin just looks around like, what in the fuck have I gotten myself into? So he fucks up some more stuff, and then Garvin thinks to himself, okay, what's something I can do that will look okay, that he cannot possibly screw up? I know. I'll do a giant swing. I'll just grab him by his feet and swing him around, let gravity do the rest. There's no way he can screw this up. And he hits this giant swing. He does 5 or 6 revolutions, and he lets it go. And now Garvin's dizzy, and Garvin falls down. And he gets up, he hits an elbow smash, and he wins. I want to go back and watch this all over again.
In all caps, I wrote, "This was enjoyable."
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was great.
I just love a match where you try something, and the guy sucks so bad that you decide, I'm going to put him in 100 holds, and then I'm going to grab his legs and spin him, and then I'm going to drop something on him, and then win. Because that's literally all you could do with a guy like this.
Yeah. Raging Bull cut a promo that may have been longer than that angle that closed the Ring of Honor show. He starts talking about Ronnie Garvin, how tough he is, how he's going to get his hands on Tully Blanchard. He runs down Jimmy Valiant and he runs down Paul Jones's army, says he's going to stand by Jimmy Valiant and fight beside him. And then he tells all the kids at home to say no to drugs. This is very important, he said, because drugs are the number one destroyer in the world, besides all the other evils around.
Yeah.
And you know, when he puts it that way, he's right.
Say no to drugs. The bull says no. You say no.
He also said you should say no to Paul Jones. He went on and on and on, and eventually he was just done.
I'm going to take out all these bald-headed geeks, whether it be the ball-bearing or Taijo Khan.
Wahoo Madeo came out for a promo. Said Jimmy Garvin was hiding behind a woman. And Arn Anderson was a TV champion and a man to look up to, but now Arn had stuck his nose in Wahoo's business. They showed an angle where Precious had distracted Wahoo during a squash match. Jimmy Garvin, had jumped Wahoo from behind and immediately gotten his ass kicked, but then Arn hit the ring and he and Garvin worked Wahoo over. Wahoo said he had no idea why Arn was sticking his nose in his business, but he was going to make him pay. He was going to take the TV title.
So reason the damn WWE network isn't working right now?
I don't know.
I click Vault.
Yeah.
Click NWA World Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh, now it works. Fuck you.
Robert Gibson versus David Dellinger. Another new jobber. You've all seen a guy will push his opponent to the ropes and then do a drop down. His opponent will run over him. The guy will get back up and they'll do whatever's next. Dellinger does a drop down. Gibson hops over him. Gibson hits the ropes. He starts running. Dellinger hasn't gotten up yet. And he is so slow standing up, Gibson has to throw on the brakes and then just go on with something else. Now, you pointed out, in all likelihood, it's not so much that Dellinger was incapable of standing up, which is what I believed. I believe he just was not, physically could not stand up quick enough to keep up with Robert Gibson, who wasn't going terribly fast. In all likelihood, he forgot the spot and froze in the headlights.
All I know is that in this match, Dellinger, who I thought was a perfectly respectable physical specimen, botched the two most important spots, one being stand up and the other being stay down, because he fucked up the finish too.
Gibson won with a sunset flip.
He tried.
Yeah.
He flipped over the guy, and the guy just laid there with his shoulder up, then another shoulder up, and he's desperately trying to get both shoulders down. God, what a bad jobber.
Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA came out for a promo.
Oh, this began something.
This led something down the line there. So Magnum's cutting this promo. And he's Magnum TA. He's got the big permed mullet, the mustache, some scars on his forehead. He says, I've been facing Nikita Koloff in Russian chain matches all over this country. And yeah, I've taken some lumps. And he points to the scars on his head. But I'm still fighting, and I'm still a U.S. champion. And Dusty's there. He's got his big aviators on. He throws his arm around Magnum's shoulders and says, this man's so pretty. He's so pretty. I can't believe that we're all so lucky to wrestle with him. And I've been traveling up and down the road with him and the Perfect 10 baby doll. And we're all going to get our hands on Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express. We're going to take the Midnight Tag titles.
Magnum was so embarrassed. He's trying so hard not to laugh. Some lucky girl in TV land.
That's what Dusty says.
He's going to hang him up one of these days. Magnum's like...
Nikita Koloff versus Tony Zane. I don't know if I've mentioned this before or if this is the first time I realized this, but Tony Zane looks exactly like early 80s version Adrian Adonis. He does not work like early 80s version Adrian Adonis, which is too bad.
He was physically horrendous, but as a worker, he was Ricky Steamboat compared to that last numbskull.
Well, that's true. So Nikita must have liked him because he gave him a ridiculous amount of offense, considering he's Nikita. And he won with a sickle. And I guess what Nikita liked was that Zane sold this by flipping over and landing on the back of his neck. Shivani interviewed Jim Crockett and Sandy. I didn't get Sandy's last name, and it's somebody I should know.
Sandy Scott.
Sandy Scott. So they're there to plug the Great American Bash, which is the tour of shows in outdoor stadiums all over the country. Now, I've been waiting for this. A month or two ago, my cat runs behind the TV. Some cables get unplugged. I got to reorganize everything. So I'm reorganizing everything, and I go to make sure that my Xbox is still plugged in and the internet's still working. And to test this, I just loaded up a random show, NWA Championship Wrestling from the summer of '86. I wasn't thinking anything. I just picked one show and hit play to see if it worked. Wait till we get to these shows.
Oh, I can imagine.
The venues they're in, the talent they have, it's a sight to behold.
Well, hey, they told you don't make your goddamn summer plans until you hear from us.
It's the treats we are in for the next 2 to 3 months. I can't wait.
Hey, we were in for treats tonight.
Yes. So they plugged shows in Philadelphia, D.C., Atlanta, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, and more I couldn't write down. I noted in Bash 85, in addition to great wrestling action, you also had fireworks and skydivers and country music stars. They plugged appearances by David Allen Coe and Waylon Jennings.
Holy smokes. Waylon Mercy's going to be there?
No.
Oh, Waylon.
He might, actually, but...
Maybe.
Tully Blanchard versus Rocky King, and this week's example of goddamn Tully Blanchard was great.
Dude, this was a totally fine little match, and Rocky King deserved much better than this.
Rocky King was a guy who went on TV every week. Sometimes he looked good, sometimes he looked bad, but he never, ever, ever won. I don't want to say Tully had them convinced he was going to win, but when Rocky gave his comebacks and was punching the crap out of Tully, these people were so into it. They were really thinking Rocky could hold his own with Tully Blanchard. 3 minutes later, they were proven wrong. Tully won with a slingshot suplex. He was great. Cornette came out for a promo. He was ripping on Dusty and Magnum. Said they were hiding under masks, calling themselves the James Gang. They re-aired the video that opened the show, so here's how it ended. The James Gang, which is in fact Dusty and Magnum under masks, they come out, they beat up the Midnight Express, they put a rope around Jim Cornette's neck, they carry him out of the ring, they take him into a parking lot, and they lay him down on the ground, and they take the rope that's around his neck and tie it to a pickup truck. Baby Doll is in the truck, and they are about to kill him.
They're going to hang him.
They're going to drag him.
They're going to hang him and drag him behind this vehicle here.
Yeah.
And literally, the car is moving when they stop the film.
Yes, the film just stops.
I was like, oh my God, we almost witnessed a murder on national television, and because it's Jim Cornette, no one gives a shit.
No. I guess you're allowed to publicly kill people if they're mean.
If they deserve it. You can assassinate them on live television in NWA.
He needed killing.
Now, even if I hadn't known that Dusty and Magnum were the James Gang, the James Boys, Dusty is leaving the building, and you only see him from behind, and he's wearing his duster and his cowboy hat. It was so unmistakably Dusty Rhodes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it could have been anybody else in the world. And you couldn't see a thing. He was wearing a hat and a duster. But his physique and the way he moves, there's no one else in the world it could have been.
No way.
Not One Man Gang, not Big Bubba Rogers, not any other fat guy. It was unmistakably Dusty Rhodes.
So Cornette says this is not the Old West. You can't get away with this kind of thing anymore. So they want to fight dirty. The Express can fight dirty too. And to show it to you, here's beautiful Bobby and Loverboy Dennis, the Midnight Express. Boy, did they show us.
Oh, my God. Randy fucking Mulkey.
Has anyone seen this man in the ensuing 30 years?
He's alive. They're around.
There's no way he's alive.
He came out.
I may die after watching this.
He came out with a farmer's tan.
This cannot have been an accident, by the way, this farmer's tan.
No, of course not.
It was way too deep. This is a professional farmer tan.
He takes a big backdrop, and I thought, man, not a bad bump for this here Mulkey. Landed safely. Very good. And then he is thrown through the top and the middle rope to the outside, and he lands right on his ass and tailbone on the cement.
Yeah.
I thought he's dead, but no.
He goes flying out there. And like you say, he goes flying under the bottom rope, so it doesn't sound that bad. You've all seen guys who fly out of the ring. But he does this almost like he's doing a... who did that flip dive through the ropes? Aries used to or somebody? Homicide.
A lot of guys.
Homicide used to do a flip dive through the ropes. And he'd always, there's a guy there to catch him and bounce off of, so he'd sort of land on his feet. Looked like the Mulkey was trying to do that, but there was no one there, so he just lands on his tailbone on the cement. I'd never walk again.
Let me give you a lesson here. I'm not a physicist. I'm just going to give this to you in layman's terms. We've all been to the gym, except Vinny. Everybody knows the bar that you put the weights on. That thing weighs 45 pounds. Now imagine, Vinny, if you were laying down and I just took that bar and I laid it across your chest. You'd be fine, right?
Yes.
Now let's say that I took one end of it and I sharpened it like a spear and I tilted it on its end and I put the sharp part right on your stomach and I let go of all 45 pounds.
I'd be worse.
You'd be a skewer.
Yeah.
Because of the surface area.
Yes.
So when you land on your goddamn tailbone and nothing else on the cement, they may as well dig your grave.
The pounds per square inch on his tailbone was high.
So he's dead, but no.
There's no more.
They come out and Bobby Eaton grabs him and he lifts him in the air and he hits him with a vertical suplex on the cement. And it sounds like this. A splat of flesh on cement. Now what's funny is, before it was a very small area, his tailbone, that impacted the ground and I thought he died. This time the impact was spread over his entire body, which should be much, much safer, but now I really thought he was dead. Because of the sound.
There's a way you can do a suplex and sort of protect the guy, where you take part of the impact yourself. And Eden went down, but he lifts this guy up for a suplex, and then when he starts to fall backwards, he just lets go. And Randy Mulkey fell from head height to a flat back bump on cement. And yeah. Go just drop raw meat on the floor. That's what it sounds like. A big porterhouse.
You got to do a 200-pound piece of raw meat.
Yeah.
Although the Mulkeys weren't close to 200 pounds. But
150-pound piece of meat.
Sure. So then he tags in the other Mulkey, Bill Mulkey. It's his time to die. And the other Mulkey, Randy, is dead on the apron.
He vanishes.
Yeah.
I thought he was crippled.
They said this guy, he can't even stand up in his corner. But then you know what? He fucking tagged back in. And when the guy tagged back in, I thought, you deserve whatever you get from this point forward.
Not only did he tag in, he started throwing punches. What the fuck, dude? Don't poke the bear.
He was hit with the skull-crushing finale.
Yes.
Which, in fact, looks fucking awesome.
Yes.
When it is performed.
By a talented wrestler. And literally,
it was so awesome. He hits the move, and the referee drops to his knees, and before the referee can even count, Bobby Eaton is sauntering into the ring with the tag belts, and Jim Cornette is getting on the apron to get inside.
Yeah.
And the referee sees these men entering the ring, but it's like, fuck, 1, 2, 3, end this fucking thing. Everybody knew the man was dead. Everybody knew it was over. It was acknowledged, and everyone just started moving on with their lives even before the 3 count had been accomplished.
I mean, when he tagged in and started throwing these punches, they said, all right, I guess you're okay. And they slammed him, and they suplexed him, and they threw him down on his back over and over and over again. Hit the big elbow, the skull-crushing finale, and pinned him. Oh. That was seriously like the worst pair of bumps in one match until Mick Foley climbed on top of that stupid cell.
So far.
Yeah.
There's still 10 years, Vinny.
I guess. So Cornette then cuts a promo on Bob Geigel and Jim Crockett. Apparently, the James gang had beaten the Midnight Express at some point. He wanted the results of that match overturned because clearly that's Dusty Rhodes and Magnum T under masks. So Crockett comes out, says, no, the results of that match can stand unless you can prove that the James boys are in fact America's team wearing masks.
Now, was it that, or was it just when they interfered that it cost the Midnight Express the match?
He wanted some match result overturned.
Yeah, it may have been the one from the opener. Or from the thing we just saw. I don't know. I wasn't paying that much attention.
The key is...
Yes.
The angle, which Dusty loved to do, I can think off the top of my head, there's at least a third example of this I can think of. The baby faces are wearing masks. The bad guys have to remove the masks. And if the bad guys can remove the masks, the baby faces are in trouble.
That's right. Jim Crockett Sr. essentially said, or Jim Crockett Jr., if you can prove that these two men are Dusty and Magnum, I will reverse the decision. But otherwise, I'm just believing they're the James boys.
That's right.
It's like, wow.
They came in and signed contracts under masks.
Sure.
And you didn't question them. No ID.
That in the old days, the masked wrestlers, people would ask the question, how do they cash the check? And I can't remember who it was, but their answer was, all I know is I write a check out to the Midnight Rider, and he gets it cashed. It's not on me.
But yes, we had the James Gang here. We had the Midnight Rider a year or two after this. We had the Yellow Dog in the 90s. It's a classic angle. Ric Flair and Arn Anderson versus Carl Styles and Bob Owens. It was long. It wasn't bad. It was Flair and Arn, for God's sake.
By the book, tag team action.
Yes. And Flair squashed the guy and won with a figure 4. And then he cuts a promo. He says, this is the World Championship belt. It costs $40,000.
Holy shit.
Gold and silver and diamonds and rubies. And as he's talking about how great it is, how important it is, they zoom in on the belt, and you can see the nameplate that clearly says, Rick with a K, Flair. Oops.
When you spend $40,000, you don't need to get that nameplate fixed.
They did not spend the extra $1,000 on an editor.
If you're going to give me a mic that costs $40,000, you can spell my name with an I.
All right.
I'll be cool with that.
He said, I have this belt. That means I can talk about my women. I can talk about clothes. I can talk about my yachts. I can talk about airplanes. And poor little Ricky Morton, you're stuck with teeny boppers and training underwear. So he's going to be champ for a long time.
Flair loves that comment.
He does.
He must have said it one time and thought he was so funny that now it's part of his lexicon.
It might be. Talked about how great the Horsemen were and the Midnight Express were and the Koloffs were. Said he's taking out Dusty Rhodes. He's going to take out Ricky Morton. When he's done with that, he's going to beat up a Road Warrior just to show he could do it.
Hey, he could today. He was all jacked up with abs.
Oh, yeah.
Just got back from the beach tanning, he said.
That's right. Driving a little crazy there, too, yeah. Raging Bull and Jimmy Valiant came out for a promo.
I love this because after the Flair interview, the on-screen graphic, they always have the on-screen graphic.
Yes.
The on-screen graphic says, and I quote, more to come and it's all action. Stay tuned. So when I heard that, I thought, I'll bet you anything they come back with an interview segment, and so I can make fun of them for claiming it's going to be all action when they come back. So I was fixing to blow when who should be there for the interview but Jimmy Valiant. And in fact, they were fucking right. It was all action.
It was an all-action promo. Valiant has a new shirt. On the front, it reads, Pistol Pez Whatley. On the back, it reads, Will be a bald-headed geek.
I bet those goddamn things would still sell at Cauliflower Alley today.
Probably would. So, actually, that's a good point. My favorite part of this one, he's being all crazy, Jimmy Valiant. He's also addressing his partner here at Raging Bull. Now, if you watch these, they usually call this man Raging Bull. About 20% of the time, they call him by his given name, Manny Fernandez. Valiant didn't call him by either of those names. Valiant called him Willy Willy. Over and over again.
Willy Willy.
Willy Willy.
I thought you were going to say he was going to call him, like, Raging Fernandez.
No, that would have made sense.
Manny Bull.
Manny Bull. So we got Jimmy Valiant and Willy Willy versus Larry Clark and Paul Garner.
I was so disappointed.
Valiant never tagged in.
Flying burrito and to the back.
Fans were chanting bald-headed geek. Jim Crockett and Magnum TA cut a promo.
Do you remember when we used to watch Primetime Wrestling and Tito Santana would do matches and he'd hit the flying forearm and Bobby Heenan would call it the flying burrito and Gorilla Monsoon would roundly chastise him? This was like maybe 4 years later.
Yeah.
And here we are, and that's what... we're not even... This is not a joke, guys, that aren't following us along. They called his finish the flying burrito.
Because he's Mexican.
Oh.
He's Manny Fernandez. Flying burrito. No one knew what a chimichanga was then.
Not ironically.
Yeah.
He was a babyface, and his finish was the flying burrito
Yes.
here in 1986.
Jim Crockett and Magnum TA cut a promo concerning a contract Magnum had signed to face Nikita for the U.S. title. So they announced that's the subject matter, and then what they have to say about this contract is, we'll tell you more next week. Seriously, that was the whole thing.
Yep.
Paul Jones' Army came out for a promo.
It's time for our audio clip of the week.
Yay!
It's not Paul Jones's time, because he had almost nothing to say. He mentioned something about propaganda, and then threw it to the Baron,
Yeah.
who's a cartoon character. But then we got... Yes.
Before you hit play, my favorite part of this is when he vows Jimmy Valiant will be a bald-headed geek Tell him Baron. And the camera pans over to Baron, and there's not a hair on his head to be seen.
That is irony.
Yes.
Let's hear from Shaska Whatley.
Snip, snip, snip. Tell your
That's
thugs
Baron.
that. Tell
know, it's
Manny
coming,
Fernandez that, or whoever else you get. Right, Shaska? That's right, Baron. And let me tell you what this is. This is just evidence of what's going to be happening to you, Jimmy Valiant. And you, Manny Fernandez. I'm going to tell you what, he ain't nothing but an off-brand colored boy anyway. And I'm the one that said it. And I'm going to tell you another thing. If you think that you're going to make this pretty hair up here, I got news for you, sucker. I ain't going bald. I ain't going bald. I got good hair. You the one with horse hair. I'm going to take it all off. And Manny Fernandez, I ain't never wanted no Chihuahua dog, but my dog needs a little hair too. And I'll get some from you, sucker.
Paul Jones and
Aside
his
from
army.
calling him an off-brand colored boy,
Yeah. Did you miss that the first time?
I did.
I did not.
What the fuck?
Yeah, you can say things in 1986 on TV that you can't anymore. And that's not a bad thing. You probably shouldn't be calling people that on TV these days.
That's still a hell of a promo.
Yes.
My God. Hey, was it because he was short? How did Shaska not go to the very top?
I don't know.
Man.
So it led to...
I mean, he looks like a goddamn idiot right here.
well, it was-
But he's a heel.
he's got his white top hat askew, his white jacket and tails, no shirt, and his wrestling gear.
Man. What a promo.
That's a great promo. And it led to those three, the ball-bearing Baron von Raschke and Shaska Whatley versus Art Pritz.
Can we just talk about these three, by the way?
I can talk about them all night.
We got Baron
How
von
much time you
Raschke,
got?
who looks like an animated villain come to life. We got Shaska Whatley in his tux top, white tux, by the way, his trunks pulled up above his navel, and his top hat on. We've got number one Paul Jones dressed as an army colonel,
a commandant.
a commandante, and then we got the fucking Barbarian.
Here's how I would describe Baron von Raschke to you if you've never seen him. Go to Google, do a search for the word troll. The first image that comes up looks exactly like him.
Gotta try this.
Give it a shot. That is what he looks like, with ears. He has ears. That's a difference.
This drawing?
Yes.
Huh.
That's what Baron von Raschke looks like.
What about the second row, fourth from the left? Is that,
With the sombrero?
yeah, is that the flying
Perhaps
burrito?
that is the Raging Bull.
Oh, Vinny.
What? That's what he called him.
I called it the fly. That was his finish. Anyway,
What else are we talking about? Oh, the Barbarian. The ball bearing. So they're doing this match. And Barbarian's just press slamming dudes and kicking them left and right and looking great. And he throws Pritz into the ropes and he hits a big boot.
the greatest spot of 2016. And I realize that this took place in 1986.
Doesn't matter.
Can I describe this?
I think you should.
Okay, first off, his gimmick is he's the Barbarian. When you think of a Barbarian, you don't think of a man who could do the splits on a ballet bar.
No.
But the Barbarian can. He swings it. You know what it looked like? It looked like you. When you used to do that giant big boot, I couldn't believe you got your big fat leg up so high.
Why, thank you.
You went above your own head. That's 6'3".
Yeah.
That's a long fucking way up in the air. Barbarian throws his damn leg up high in the air, and he takes this guy out. And the guy takes a bump right in front of him, which you're not supposed to do. So, Barbarian is a little bit crowded. But he has not lost his balance. He is still perfectly balanced, and he puts his foot on the ground. Now, they're very close to the ropes. He is between the man and the ropes, and he has thrown this boot, and the man has fallen right next to him. Now, what the Barbarian could do is he could step over the man. He could walk around the man. He could go to the other side and then make a cover. But instead, the Barbarian decides, fuck it. I'm going to leap in the air and just fall on the man, looking like I've lost my balance and I'm out of control.
Yes.
I laughed so hard. I rewound it over and over again. It was the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen.
You can see the exact moment where he said, I'm going to let go of these ropes and fall. And he threw his hands in the sky, went, oh, and fell down on the man.
Because why not?
Because why not? And they went on to win with his diving headbutt. 55 minutes into the show, everyone. You should all go watch this spot. Koloff's got a promo.
We haven't even talked about Butch Brannigan.
He was a terrible jobber.
He's a new jobber. We haven't seen him yet, at least when we've been reviewing the show. His name is Butch Brannigan. He absolutely sucks, but he is perfectly capable of flying through the air and being killed.
I wonder if this is like when, like WWE, they call up a bunch of guys after WrestleMania and always let a bunch of guys go.
Yeah, let's call up some new jobbers.
And like the old jobbers go. I don't know. There was no George South this week.
This match was more entertaining than any match on the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. All because of the ball bearing and Butch Brannigan being absolutely horrible. And Art Pritz being in there and Kent Glover. And everything about it. I was just going to keep going, but let's consolidate it.
Koloff's got a promo. Ivan's going on about how the Russians would headline every Bash 86 show, just like they had headlined Bash 85, but this time Nikita would be U.S. champion. And then Nikita spoke. I think.
He did a Koloff promo.
I got no idea what he said. Why did they bother? Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin versus Jim Dawson. They were low on time. Garvin won with the brainbuster in about 15 seconds. And he cuts a promo with Shivani.
God.
Whoa, what a promo this was.
He must have been in the back.
For an hour.
I don't know. Now listen, when Dusty Rhodes came out and he put his arm around Magnum and he started talking about how there's some girl out there in TV land that's going to make you her prize or whatever he said, I strongly suspect that nobody saw that coming. It was just Dusty going into business for himself.
Oh, yeah.
But Jimmy Garvin's in the back, and he's watching on the monitor, or whatever. Maybe he's just looking through the curtain. Maybe they didn't have a monitor. And he sees Dusty put his arm around Magnum. And the wheels started to turn.
Oh, yeah.
And he turned it into a whole promo.
He comes over and says, listen, I got to say, I was watching this show earlier, and I got sick. It was sickening to see America's team out here. One man with his arm around another, calling him pretty. By the way, Jimmy Garvin's whole gimmick is he's pretty.
That's right.
Yeah.
But he gets to say it.
He does, and Precious does.
Yes.
Not another man.
No. God forbid.
He was so sickening to see the two men hugging each other and calling each other pretty, he almost came out to smack the two of them.
Can you imagine?
He got through that. He says he can't believe Wahoo is now talking about Arn Anderson. I guess I'm invisible, he says. Wahoo can't see me anymore.
I mean, listen, it wasn't even like he wanted to say something like, you know, I'm not a fan of this kind of lifestyle. No. He saw a man hug another man.
Yes.
And it sent him into a rage, and he almost went out and attacked them.
When you put it that way.
That's what he said.
It does come off like a hate crime.
That is exactly what he
It's
said.
very much like a hate crime. When his delivery seemed far less terrible.
Well, he turned into a wacky promo.
It was, yes.
But what he was essentially saying was, I was so sickened by this public display of male affection
Yes.
that I almost had to come out and beat two asses.
Yes.
But I was so disgusted, I couldn't leave my dressing room.
Yeah. So he does not want Wahoo ignoring him. Says he only put his hands on Wahoo because Wahoo was cursing around his wife. And they wrap it up the show, and he says, fans, I want to let you all know there will be no more guys hugging guys on TBS. On a wrestling show, mind you. And he closed the show with a big kiss for his wife.
1986,
It
everybody.
was a different time.
1986.
And you use the words off-brand colored boy. And be
What does that even mean?
I assume your skin is darker than a
See-
white person, but not as dark as mine.
I heard it, and then I was like, what? Anyway, 1986.
That was the show.
That was a show, all right.
That really was a show.
I don't know if they was supposed to go another 30 minutes and then Garvin just got the whole show shut down or what happened right here. Between Garvin and Shaska, they were just like, let's put on Andy Griffith.